September 25th, 6 p.m. Chair, would you do roll call, please?
Here.
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 All right, this is an open meeting and has been posted. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me for a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Up next, citizens' comments.
We have one tonight, Mr. Greg Nichols. You have 3 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning, okay?
Hey.
Thank you.
Everybody hear me? Am I close enough? Yeah. I'm here on part of this survey card that I got this last week here, trying to get information, which I did. Mrs. Connor showed me where to find it on the website. Doesn't make it easy for a person to find this stuff. You guys deal with this stuff day in, day out, but for the average person who doesn't deal with this day in, day out, it's not the easiest to find. One thing I did see on there, they're looking for $22 million for one of the proposals I saw in there. We haven't even paid off the last one, and we're looking to start a new one. We've got record inflation. I got $5,000 less in my pocket a year in spending money. I'm on a fixed income. I don't know how I can afford to do this. I mean, my school taxes for the referendums, the last two that we had in 2017, was $37.17 for the over the 5% raise that you could do. For the one for the school was $266.58. In 2022, it was $36.01. Actually went down, which was nice. But for the school, it went up to $986.84, over 300% increase. I don't make that kind of money. I don't think anybody here makes that kind of money. Yet you guys still want to make more adjustments, charge more taxes. It's getting to the point where I can't afford to live here. I don't know what it's going to take for people to live within their means. Each one of us has to do that. I ran a business for over 20 years. I had to live within my means. I just can't go out and spend money that I didn't have. Now, I'm sure there's ways of doing it. I don't know because I'm not on the board. I don't deal with your numbers. But as growing up, I'm 66 years old. I've seen a lot of stuff in my time. I've never seen increases like we've had in the state of Wisconsin for schools when we're spending record amounts every year on our education. And what are we getting for it? On your webpage, I just saw from 16, 18 years old, there were 60% efficiency in math. Who in their right mind would pay extra money for that kind of efficiency? And they said, that's progress. I don't see that being progress. I think that's a shame. We're sending kids out there
30 seconds.
that don't have a clue what's in the working world out there. And yet you still want more money. We pay more money per student than any place in the world, and we're getting less for it. Our kids can't even break the top 20 in the world, yet we're paying more money. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, student reps.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So let's get started with this right away. We'll start off with Mukwonago High School. So the 2023-2024 school year has been off to a great start for MHS students and staff. The MHS Counseling Department hosted a fabulous freshman-only day, which also included separate events and schedules for foreign exchange students as well. The day was filled with lots of information, character strong lessons, and a club fair for new students to explore all the opportunities MHS has to offer. Clubs and activities are thoroughly underway, and are doing some really fun activities this year already. MHS teacher and Key Club advisor Sarah Bristol shared some pictures from the first Key Club meeting of the school year. There were over 130 students in attendance, and they are all ready to partake in a variety of community service activities throughout the entire year. Following along with the activities, the MHS Students Against Violence Everywhere Club hosted a Start With Hello Week at MHS on September 11th through the 15th, and it was a complete success. SAVE wants to thank all the teachers and staff in the Mukwonago School District for their participation in this year's Start With Hello video. Additionally, over 500 cups of coffee were given out and donated from local businesses Brew 52, Espresso Love, and Starbucks. And they were all for students and staff for our Say Hello with a Cup of Joe event. Students at the high school also participated in a phone-free Friday. This activity was a hit. Students who were not on their phone and talking to students during passing time were given a raffle ticket from a staff member. Students then put their raffle ticket into a drawing. Some prizes included free entry to a varsity football game, free drink from the vending machine, free item from Joe to Go, Quick Trip gift cards, and a free homecoming ticket. Lastly, MHS was a sea of green for their Don't Be Mean, Wear Green Day. Their fun community building activities earned MHS SAVE a $500 grant from the National Save and Sandy Hook Promise organization out of hundreds of applicants. We look forward to them continuing their work in making MHS a safe and inclusive environment. We also want to share our Student of the Month, McKenna Kimenow. She's a part of SAVE. She's the SAVE Vice President. She's a member of Spanish Club, DECA, Ecology Club, Junior Class Officer, FCA, Girls Basketball, Girls Golf, Track, Student Government Treasurer, Basketball Leadership Board.
Next, we're going to move on to Clarendon Elementary. Prior to the back to school, Clarendon hosted a back to school bash on Sunday afternoon in early September. Students and grown-ups had a great time hanging out on the playground enjoying Kona ice. Clarendon had a great first week of school. Their students hit the ground running by enjoying community building activities, socializing at lunch, and ending the week with an exciting welcome back assembly with special guest Charity the Comfort Dog. 4K also had a successful start to the school year. Their littlest learners enjoyed going to school for a full day and especially loved their music class with Mrs. Roysch. For SOAR, their SOAR students have started off the new school year with a new, longer daily schedule. Students have continued building strong relationships with their peers and teachers through a variety of ways built into their schedule. They're also using character-strong curriculum and engaging in well-thought-out discussions. In U.S. history, they have each researched a president that served before their lifetime and created presentations that were later shared with the full group. While we can enjoy beautiful fall weather, students are taking daily PE walks throughout the community. Some students have taken the initiative to pick up garbage along the way. On our first rainy day, students asked to play volleyball, so we headed down to the gym to set up our volleyball set.
All right, now we're going to our Big Bend Elementary School. The Big Bend Elementary School PTO raised over $50,000 last year in their annual fundraiser. Good job to them. Part of that money was dedicated to improving their blacktop area due to impacted playtimes. In the 2022-23 school year, there were 46 days where students were restricted to staying off the grass due to mud and ice. It is safe to say that this new blacktop was truly needed, and the renovation even included 2 new basketball courts.
Rolling Hills is off to a great start. They had their all-school Raptor Way assembly to review behavior expectations, as well as the Matrix Mix-Up, where staff teachers expected behavior in every area of the school, including the classroom, lunchroom, hallways, bathrooms, playground, and bus. Bus drivers also joined in on the first assembly and introduced themselves to the student body. Rolling Hills wanted them to know how appreciated they are and are looking forward to a great year with them. At that time, students were also informed if they receive a Roar card from a bus driver, it is worth double and can be used in the Roar store or during classroom competitions. Rolling Hills wants to continue to emphasize respectful, responsible, and safe behavior while riding the bus, as this was one of their biggest problem areas last year. Each RHES staff member also introduced themselves and explained why they like to give Roar cards to students. The Rolling Hills theme this year is Rolling Hills Superheroes. The time is always right to do what is right. See attached pictures from the assembly. This month's superhero is Superman. Based on last year's school data, they will also continue to focus on a literacy goal, a math goal, and behavior goal this year. Teachers are currently assessing students to determine levels, gaps, or holes in learning and prescribe interventions for use during win times. Rolling Hills would also like to recognize and welcome new staff members. Mrs. Andrea Cooper, second grade job share with Mrs. Chris Butler, and Mrs. Caitlin Bugle, instructional coach. They are excited to welcome them into the Rolling Hills family. Lastly, their PTO is hosting Grandparent Lunch Week at Rolling Hills during the week of October 9th, along with the Fall Book Fair. Grandparents will also be able to pre-order Rocky Rococo's pizza through their PTO, who is overseeing and sponsoring this event.
All right, now we'll share some of our community education opportunities. MASD Community Education is heading into a busy couple of months. This week, Dr. Dennis Roscoe, a NASA ambassador, is hosting a class, Where Are All the Aliens?, where he will discuss the Fermi Paradox. Music teacher Riley Robertson kicks off his Music for Baby/Toddler and Parents series the first week in October at Prairie View. And art instructor John Grundman is leading the ever-popular barn quilt painting class at Section Elementary. The program is also collaborating with several community members, rolling out a home buyer and seller workshop, as well as a hands-on Let's Make Soup class being held at the MHS Fork in the Road Culinary Kitchen. Mary Powers just added a Reiki guided meditation class for middle school students on the first Thursday of every month, which she hopes will draw students who are seeking a way to relax and reduce stress. The first two September classes, Floral Boutique and Sunflower Reese, were unfortunately canceled. They did not meet the minimum enrollment levels. Registration is open for all the aforementioned classes and more on the MASD Community Education website. The program is always looking for new ideas for classes, instructors to teach classes, and ways to market the program. So feel free to call the district office to connect with the community coordinator.
Onto Section Elementary. On September 8th, the PBIS team, along with selected 6th grade Hawk ambassadors, held an all-school assembly and Hawks Habits Day. During Hawks Habits Day, students rotated to 11 different stations to learn and review the expected behaviors throughout the school. At each station, teachers, along with the 6th grade Hawk ambassadors, delivered these messages to the students. Hawks Habits Day is a fun way for student leaders to share examples of expected behaviors with their peers. New student lunch. On Tuesday, September 19th, Mr. Bertain, school counselor, and Mrs. Crockford hosted a special lunch for students who are new to section. During this lunch, students ate lunch in the conference room, which is a special treat, where they meet other students in their grade who are also new to the school. Along with lunch, Mr. Bertain facilitated a get-to-know-you game that got the students talking and learning about each other. This is also a time for new students to ask questions that they have about section. Mathmania. Mathmania was revitalized at section this summer with 113 students participating in the program, which is approximately 25% of the school population. Over the course of 6 weeks, students kept track of their minutes, practicing math each week with the goal of 45 minutes for students in grades K through 2 and 60 minutes for students grades 3 through 6. Each Monday for 6 weeks, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., students came to section to check in their math minutes and earned a prize. The students who checked in every week of the program were entered into a raffle to win one of 2 Leduc's ice cream parties. Thank you to Leduc's in Wales for this generous donation. Playground updates. In collaboration with the section PTG, this summer, the upgrades of the playground continued. After seal coating the blacktop, new basketball courts, hopscotch games, a sensory path, and a map of the United States of America were painted on the playground. These improvements provide fun and engaging opportunities for students during recess. Sound system upgrade. This summer, the original sound system for the stage and gym was replaced with a brand new system to include a new receiver, sound processor, speakers, amplifiers, and microphones. This new system was designed to handle all general presentations, assemblies, and music concerts.
All right, for Eagleville Elementary, Eagleville has had a great start to the school year, and they're excited to announce the addition of a brand new outdoor classroom. Students have used the space to learn about expectations, launch STEM projects, and participate in read-alouds. We are excited for all the great opportunities this space will provide for students. They also hosted a Bubble Mania event. All Eagleville students met in mixed grade level STEM groups for the first time. The goal of the activity was for students to develop strategies for collaborating and getting to know the groups they will be working with all year. Students were challenged to find the best mix to make the largest bubble they can. Then they also did a growth mindset activity. Classes kicked off their math learning with lessons on patterns, problem solving, growth mindset, and believing in themselves as mathematicians. Students found multiple ways of learning things and worked in groups to solve challenging 3-act math tasks. Creek Fun. Classrooms enjoyed exploring the creek with their classmates all month. We also hosted their annual Parent Creek Day, a student-led event to educate families on Jericho Creek and allow them to explore the creek with all their students.
On to Prairie View Elementary. They had buddy classrooms. Prairie View Elementary students have started off the year strong and embodying their theme of better together. Students have had the opportunity to meet with their buddy classes and get to know each other. At PVES, each homeroom partners up with a different homeroom to be buddy classrooms. We believe that students can learn so much from each other, and it is important to have peer role models to look up to. The students are always excited to be with their buddies. Harvest Fest. Prairie View participated in one of its largest fundraisers last weekend at Harvest Fest. We had a great turnout of staff, families, and students working shifts at the festival in service of our community. Prairie View PTO receives a third of the proceeds from this event, and they are currently raising money for a new playground structure.
All right. And then for our Parkview Middle School, throughout the school year, parents are invited to visit PVMS for a peek inside Parkview. They are invited to join us to see student learning in action and hear from staff about current programs. Their first peek inside Parkview is scheduled for Monday, October 16th at 9:15 a.m. And then just below that, you can also see some of the flyers for some of their other events. They're doing a Parkview in the Dark trick or treat and a student pre-parade party for homecoming.
On to our student concern section. We sent out a Google form to all students in the whole district, and these are just some of the general responses we got back from them. Students are concerned about the amendment to policy 0141.1 on student representation at school board meetings. Students are concerned about weighted GPA versus unweighted GPA. Mukwonago High School does not take into account the difficulty of AP or honor classes when calculating GPA. As cited from a student-created petition, many students feel that unweighted grades is not creating an incentive for students, nor does it give merit to kids who go the extra mile. The petition has received 180 signatures. This issue will be discussed with Mr. Darren, as this conversation should be started at the high school administration level. Number 3, students are concerned about the student section being moved at varsity football games. This will be brought to high school admin, and we have received reasons for both sides of why it should be moved and why it should be moved back. 4th, students are concerned about the removal of MSAFE flyers and black and white all are welcome flyers. Cited from students, teachers were made to take down their safe space rectangle cards. I've already heard displeasure with this from a teacher of mine. It does not push or promote anything controversial. It is an indicator of a classroom that students of all kinds can feel welcome and open to express concerns with their teacher. A safe space is for every student. And 5th, possible removal of flex time. Students have heard chirpings about the possible removal of flex time, and the response has been overwhelmingly against for the most part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just for the board, Kyle and Kylie and I meet prior to each meeting. And so as we get into the student concern section, they review their presentation with me, and then we go over where these concerns are, and we have a discussion as like, where does the best problem solving? So a couple of times they said, we're gonna start this conversation with our school administration. Some of those conversations are gonna come to me as a superintendent. One of the topics that you didn't see tonight was paper towel versus hand dryers in the bathroom. Mr. Wagner had those questions, and he has already started to weigh in on some information for the students as to why it happened. So this is very valuable for us. It's a good communication tool between my office, between the buildings, and then between our student reps. So I thank them for putting this together and the meeting that we had today.
Moving on to consent agenda, looking for approval of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of September 11th, 2023, the amended minutes of August 14th, 2023, and the approval of vouchers and receipts. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, that's approved. Moving on to policy.
So we are bringing forward a handful of policies tonight as a first reading to you. These are not for approval. The first policy this evening is district-sponsored trips. So through our review with Neola and in our conversations administratively, there is some information that we want to provide through policy to our system that would require your approval. And the first edit to this policy, again, green is the recommended addition. Red would be something that we're looking to take away from a policy. So under trip approval process, no staff member may offer or lead any trip as a district-sponsored trip unless the trip has been approved by the manner prescribed in this policy. And then trips not sponsored by the district. No staff member, volunteer, coach, or other individual acting in some capacity for the district may solicit students of this district to participate in any trip that is not sponsored by the district, unless that staff individual has received approval of the superintendent to promote such trips that facilitate within the facilities or on the school grounds. So what we want to do is make sure that we have a clear definition of what is a district-sponsored trip, which is either board approval or administrative approval, and then what is not a district-sponsored trip in the process for that. The second policy that we're bringing forward tonight is the selection of instructional materials and equipment. Over the last couple of years, a number of questions have come in to school districts about what is, like, the actual materials that are being taught in class and the materials that are being used to instruct. So Neola made a recommendation to school districts to help provide some clarity on that. First, providing a definition of instructional materials, which is in the first paragraph of it. The second, the instructional equipment, which is in the second one. So again, essentially the technologies that we would be using and the materials that we would be using. And then any concern by the public regarding instructional materials and equipment shall be reviewed in accordance with 9130, which is our public request, suggestions, or complaint policy. The next policy coming forward tonight, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions should you have them. And we also have the administrators in the back who can step forward, is the academic honesty policy. And given with this being a new proposed policy for us, talking about what constitutes academic honesty or dishonesty, which would be plagiarism, forgery, presenting the results from artificial intelligence platforms. You can read the list there. It goes from A to N. But we want students to produce original work and use good references when they're creating that original work. Coupled with this policy then is policy 7540.08. It's another new policy under artificial intelligence. So this again is a proposed policy for the board, and it talks about AI and the impact that that has in the classroom and then how it relates then to academic honesty. We saw this come up in the last year and a half or so. ChatGPT kind of led the way for the discussion in schools, and what we're trying to do is provide some guidance to our organization as it pertains to academic honesty and artificial intelligence. And then a new policy for nursing mothers, just making sure that we provide the proper space, time for mothers who are nursing their children to extract milk while on the workday. So these are here for you tonight for a first review. We would be bringing them forward 2 weeks from now at the Committee of the Whole if there's any other questions. But the policies then would come to approval at the October school board meeting during the action items at the October meeting.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Moving on to personnel topics. Director's report.
We do not have a director's report this evening.
Okay,
We do
student-
have some items though down below for approval.
Okay, student learning topics.
Good evening. Go over the director's report from our committee of the whole meeting. We had a school goals presentation from Rachel Crockford, section principal, and Luke Spielman, Parkview principal. In just a second, we're going to have the next two schools present. Ben Casa was here to give a review of the summer school program, including any programming, staffing, and student numbers as an update from this last summer's summer school. Luke Spielman and Stephanie Blue updated the board that we are going to be looking at a Parkview middle school schedule and a way to add math minutes to our current schedule for the 2024-25 school year, and we'll return as we have those discussions. I went over CISA literacy workshops, 3 workshops that we're engaging in literacy work with CISA 6 on for our 4K and intermediate literacy group, and also a secondary literacy group that goes for the first time tomorrow. And then Jim Darren was here to present an update for the 2024 graduation ceremony. Graduation will be at MHS on Sunday, June 9th this year. Questions at all? Okay. Student learning then. We have 2 schools here tonight, Jim Darren from the high school and Andrea Kaplan from Clarendon. We're going to follow the same format that we did last time. So Andrea is going to kick us off with the school goals for Clarendon this year.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. So at Clarendon Avenue, we have 2 school goals this year. Our first one is actually the same goal we had last year, which is all students will demonstrate growth 1 year or more in literacy and math from fall to spring as measured by district assessments. The overall reason why we kept this goal was we saw growth. We saw pocket growth, and we know we can continue to grow. So in order to do that, it takes more than just 1 school year to hit that. So we kept the same goal, but we drilled into some new action steps. Just to show you what the different pockets of growth we had, I have it listed up there under the first bullet point. We saw some forward exam math at 3rd grade. The advanced and proficient went up 7%. We don't have a cohort in 3rd grade because it's their first year taking the exam. So in 4th grade, when I say 4th grade cohort, that means it's the same group of kids from 3rd grade into 4th grade and so on. So the 4th grade cohort went up 9%, and the 5th grade cohort went up 10%. So we were really excited about that, and we want to make sure we include all kids and show growth for all those children. So we wanted to keep math as our growth goal again. In ELA, 3rd grade went up 13% compared to the 3rd grade last year, which was great. 4th grade cohort up 9%, and 5th grade cohort up 3%. In K2 literacy, for kindergarten and 1st grade, our early reading, low risk data in the spring, all of it ended up in the 80th to 90th percentiles, which is fantastic for Clarendon Avenue. I was super proud of our students and our staff for that growth, for those growth results. And in 2nd grade in A reading, our CP in low risk grew from 74% in fall to 86%. In grades 1 and 2A math, 1st grade, the CP low risk area grew from 65% to 86%. And in 2nd grade, we grew from 77 to 85%. And we are just so excited. And I think what was the best part is we picked some action steps we thought would be impactful. And our teachers are continuing to do those from last year, but now we're drilling into some new action steps that we think are going to take us even further. One thing that Mrs. Blue talked to me about when we were talking about this school goal was why growth over achievement. And at Clarendon and in our district, we feel all kids deserve our best effort. And it's our responsibility as educators to provide students with those impactful opportunities and to build their knowledge, practice those focus standards, and we feel that growth is important. When we hit an achievement goal, we're still leaving kids behind. And so in a growth goal, we're looking at all kids, and we meet them where they are, and we move them. And that is why we choose growth at Clarendon. our action steps, we have more than these three, but I wanted to just share the most impactful. We're implementing our guiding coalition as we roll out professional learning communities as a district. Part of that guiding coalition is they are the team that we're training behind the scenes, and then they're helping their teams roll out those collaborative team meetings. And their learning and their development of professional development is what impacts student learning, because they go back and they collaborate as grade levels. They look at student learning. How do we show growth? Student learning, right? And so then they start to talk about best practice, and we just keep kids at the forefront of our efforts. And so that guiding coalition is new this year, and we meet weekly, and they roll out into their collaborative teams the learning we do behind the scenes, and they also use Wednesday afternoons to roll out that learning. We're also providing professional development and instructional coaching on engagement strategies. This is where we feel we're going to get bang for our buck. This is where we're going to deepen our students' knowledge in literacy and math. We're going to, when you talk about engagement, we're looking at engaged students, not compliant students. And we want them to interact with the content purposefully. We want to allow them to personally respond. And as that information is presented to them and taught to them, high engagement has the biggest effect sizes based on Hattie's research. And that's why we chose that. And it can go in any subject. So it made sense to use this action step and have our teachers focus on engagement along with last year's action steps. And then we're intentionally monitoring target groups of students. So we are looking at all the district assessments we give, and not only district assessments, but our formative assessments in the classroom, our summative, and we are looking for kids that are moving from proficient to basic, and they're kind of back and forth, and it's like, okay, why are they moving back and forth? What can we do to grow them over into proficient and keep them there? Or grow them from proficient into advanced and keep them there? And so we have our data spreadsheet set up, our PLC group, our collaborative team meetings are meeting, and we're developing action, basically plans for groups of kids, and we're helping pull small groups during our instructional time. WIN groups and our SLO subgroups are going to be written around kids that fall into these target groups. Yes, Mr. Verts.
WIN, W-I-N, that stands for something?
Yes, what I need, or it's our intervention block. You probably have heard them called RTI blocks, okay. Response to intervention. We call them WIN, what I need, and it's really a time we have set up in our master schedule at Clarendon Avenue, and our teachers will pull small groups. Our ALP teacher will swoop in and run enrichment. Our title are pulling to do interventions. We meet kids where they are, and we give them what they need to grow. And so we drill down to find out what they need at that time, and we work on it.
SLO then?
Yes, sorry, student learning goal, basically objective, which is our teachers write student learning goals each year for their educator effectiveness. It's part of their evaluation process. And we want them to write their SLOs around our school goals. And then they will dig in and pick subgroups of kids, and they'll focus on those subgroups. And they will do what they can to move them and show growth. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Verts. I'm speaking teacher or educator there, right? I apologize for the abbreviations.
All good.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to collate. So the WIN groups are kind of like your flex time in elementary school?
I would have to defer to Mrs. Blue on that one because I'm not in the high school.
They are. Uh-huh.
So it's a learning style or whatever. Yep. I just wanted to bring it out. That's
Yep.
Sorry, I couldn't answer that.
It's okay.
Okay. Any other questions about this goal or these action steps? Awesome. Just one more. So we wrote our second goal around recess behavior. So Our goal by the end of this school year is to reduce our number of recess incidents recorded by our major and minor write-ups by 50%. And unfortunately, we have seen an increase of major and minors on our playground for the last 3 years. As you can see there, in 2021, 78 incidents to 87 to 162. We just felt like we needed to respond to that data. And so looking at that, we also give a PBIS end of year student survey. And 15% of our students in that survey said, one of our questions is, students are kind to me. And 15% of our students marked disagree, which meant that kids were being unkind. And we also provide a comments section for our elementary kids, and 56 of the students commented that students were being specifically unkind on the playground. So we wanted to hear their voices on that one. Also, we feel that student learning has been impeded due to a rise in negative recess behaviors. And I give you an example of this. I'm not saying that 6th grade math data went down solely because of recess, but we're trying to look for reasons, and math follows recess. And we had, last year, our 6th grade recess data was at its highest, and our math data had dropped. And so we were, one of the things that we were inferring was the kids are bringing the drama from the playground into the classroom. And they come in dysregulated, they come in worried about who said what on the playground, or I'm sad and I'm having a hard time learning. And so we wanted to bring those negative recess behaviors down to see if that helps our math data improve too. And then part of our strategic plan is that we'll utilize best practices to support and enhance student social and emotional growth. And so we wanted to make sure to write a behavior goal around that. Any questions on this goal?
Yeah, do we have any idea why that's such a big jump from last year? To 1 year to the next year, 87 to 162, that's a huge jump.
Absolutely. We did attribute, there's a couple things. We are asking teachers to get better at writing majors and minors because we want to make sure we track the data accurately. So we did a big focus on anytime kids were sent in, was that a major, was that a minor? Instead of them just, you're getting sent to the principal's office or you're getting sent to the office, we wanted to make sure to track that. And so we put a big emphasis on making sure that that was recorded more efficient, better. And then also we implemented a new program called Structured Recess last year, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. And that was a program created by my school psychologist, Mrs. Sadorf, and my school counselor, Mrs. Johnson. And it helps respond to kids who are physically aggressive on the playground. And please keep in mind, in the elementary world, physical aggression could be a kindergartner pushing each other. I don't want you to associate that with fist fighting on the playground. And kids qualified for this program if they were involved in a physical altercation. Teachers felt that was very impactful for students. So we saw an increase in physical aggression write-ups, and I think it was because teachers weren't addressing it or just having me come out to address it. They were actually following the process of, we're gonna make sure we document this, then they qualify for the program and they get to go through the program. So we feel like that was part of it. And we've seen kids coming in that are having a harder time with socializing. And we're having to really focus on teaching kids self-regulation and following use your words, find an adult for help instead of going straight to physical aggression.
How many of these write-ups were kids with multiple write-ups?
So that's a great question, Dale, and I can't just pull that out. I would have to go back and look that up and email that to you.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I make note of it.
No problem.
Any other questions on this slide? All right. Oh, that went fast. There we go. So our action steps, we have more than this, but these were the ones that I wanted to highlight for you. So we are continuing to carry out our structured recess program. This is where Mrs. Sadorf, Mrs. Johnson, and my new social worker, Ms. Nelson, will be implementing this program because we want a safe recess time so children can play without aggressive behavior. We'll help them learn how to be safe with their bodies while still participating in recess. So what this program does is it focuses on reflecting, repairing, and practicing the skills needed. So kids will meet with their assigned person. They will reflect on the incident, talk it through. They will talk about strategies they could have used on the playground at the time. They'll repair the situation. So if that means meeting with the student they were unkind with, talking it out, mediating, apologizing if needed. And then they go outside, and my adults take the kids outside and they practice these skills. So they will do a group, if our kiddos have a hard time participating in Foursquare, maybe they get too competitive and they get upset and then they lash out, they will actually lead a Foursquare game so that as they're playing, they can practice the skills. This program, actually, to kind of answer your question, Dale, we saw less kids written up. So once they went through the program, our data went down. We had less repeat offenders due to the structured recess program. And we wanted to continue to implement it to see if that would help our data. Zones of regulation, we are, again, Mrs. Sadorf and Mrs. Johnson have reviewed the zones of regulation, which was previously taught last year. We had lessons they pushed into every classroom, K-6, and taught zones lessons. And this year they implemented the big problem, little problem with proper reactions lesson. And so it's just teaching kids to kind of think, okay, is this a big problem or a little problem? And how should I react? You know, if my ball was kicked across the playground, what is my reaction? Do I like cry and fall down and really lose recess time having this moment, or do I say, man, that's a bummer, and I run over and get my ball and continue to play? And then our PBIS committees, Tier 1 and Tier 2, couple things we're doing through PBIS, not all of what we're doing, just a few things. We're making sure to teach and reteach our recess expectations multiple times a year. And we hold trimester celebrations, and this year we're gonna base those students get to go to these trimester celebrations based on individual recess behavior. So we want it to be an incentive. If I follow the rules and I meet expectations, I get to participate each trimester in these big celebrations. And that is the end. Any questions over those action steps? Awesome. All right, thanks for having me, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim is going to be joining then from the high school. While he does that, just want to explain that our one of the days that we spent together in August as an administrative group and then brought in teams of teachers, that's when these school goals are written. So we do have a day in August where we bring in teams from every building. We look at data. We do celebrations of things that happened the year before, look at data, and then teams of teachers. So even though our principals are here presenting school goals for the year, I think it's important you know that these were written with a team of teachers that believe that this is the work of the building for the year and that they help monitor that work too.
Nice shirt.
I don't look as good as you, but well, thanks for having me.
Different sizes, I'm sure.
A little bit.
Just medium and large, that's all.
Wisconsin medium.
There you go. Well, thanks for having me back again for my school goal presentation. I wanted to start out by talking a little bit about some of the successes we had last year, and I'll kind of tell you why I wanted to start out with this. We did have some really good gains on the ACT test in the science category with interpreting data. Same with the vocabulary score on the ACT, which is part of the English test. The math test, or the statistics category on the math test, grew by 14%. And then our 10th grade forward exam, which is the only forward test that's given at the high school social studies exam, we've seen a 16% increase in our advanced and proficient areas in the last 3 years. I point these out because I think that for the most part, the departments and the teachers in these areas worked hard specifically on this because they saw some gaps in our ACT data. And for our social studies, they have been doing work for 3 years with their curriculum. And a lot of the work that they have spent the last 3+ years on, we are going to tackle this year. And so that's why I bring this up. Our number one goal, that students will have access to a guaranteed and viable curriculum to ensure high quality learning experiences for all students. That is certainly aligned with our district goal and those staff down at Parkview Middle School. And I think when we talk about a guaranteed and viable curriculum, we think that that's this out of the way paperwork that we never really look at. And that is certainly not the case here. And when we talk about a guaranteed and viable curriculum, we're talking about every classroom at the high school, especially our core areas that we are going to spend the time developing high quality instruction, assessments that are aligned to the standards, all staff agreeing on what good teaching and what good learning looks like. And it also gives us an opportunity to match instruction and assessment with what we do have on the ACT. Some of the action steps that are going to be supporting that goal, we also have a guiding coalition at our school to help the staff in what we call our common learning, our content learning teams. And really each of our content learning teams is going through these 4 questions. What students need to know and be able to do. What are the staff going to do to get them there? How are they going to know that they have actually gotten there? What are they going to do if they don't know it? And then what are they going to do if they already know it? And so that work, and it gets pretty complicated in terms of it's not just what the students are what they should know, but is it tied to the standards? Is it tied to the standards? Is it also tied to the major assessments that we are going to be judged on? Is it tied to standards in the next course? If we've got teachers teaching German 1, they better know what the standards are in German 2, and the German 2 teacher better know what the standards are in German 1, so that there's that the German 1 teacher is getting the kids ready for German 2. A couple of action steps. So all of our teacher teams are in little different areas. Of course, social studies is a little bit farther ahead. So right now, they're working on some of their instruction, their assessments, their formative assessments, where other teacher teams are answering that first question. What are the essentials that the kids need to know? It allows us to be a little bit more flexible with our PD, that instead of giving a one-size-fits-all PD, that we can say these teacher teams are in this question, we're going to give some PD in that area, and these teacher teams are working on the other questions, and we can focus our PD on that. Our instructional coaches are very, very important to this process, tying the ACT standards to the standards that the teachers are going through in the curriculum, and again, especially in our core areas. We are looking at our summative assessments to make sure that it matches the rigor on the ACT, and doing an analysis of the questions and a depth of knowledge. That's what DOK stands for, where a lot of our questions need to be at a depth of knowledge at like 3, 4, and 5, the analysis, instead of simply depth of knowledge 1 is, what year did World War II start? Who is this person? That's pretty low-level stuff. And one of the biggest things that this work will be able to do is create formative assessments that give us data in the classroom right away. And the data at the high school is what I call autopsy data. It's kind of after the fact. And what we want to do is create physical data. You know, when you go to a doctor, they check you out, they say, hey, do these things and come back in a week, come back in a month, and you should improve, where the ACT data says, you know, here's your scores from last year, and there's stuff that you can do in the future, but you're not going to help those students anymore this year. Our second goal is about building stronger relationships with our students. If they feel safe and connected to school, they have higher academic success. And a couple of data points, you know, our students that are involved in athletics scored 1 point higher on the ACT than students that were not. Music students actually had a 3-point higher average, and so getting kids involved. Our student connection surveys from last year, you know, really good student connection data. You know, 95.5% of the kids said they had a trusted adult in the high school, but we need to do better. And then only, I say only, but you know, 78% are involved in an MHS club, a sport, an activity. If we can get those kids, that 22% more involved, they're gonna do better in school. And so that's our goal number 2. You know, some of you probably saw the freshman only day video in our West Gym. We had 40+ groups that our freshmen could check out. We already have additional clubs starting. One of the big things that we're doing this year is making sure our staff are out in the hallway during passing time, and it may seem like a non-essential thing, but it's big to make sure that all teachers are out during passing time, welcoming students into the class during every period. We've created a student recognition program that'll give more students more recognition. Each department each month is going to recognize a student, and we've got a very nice unused trophy case out front that we're going to use. We do a student connection survey 3 times a year to really see who feels connected to the school and who does not. We also ask things that they are interested in that we can get them tied into clubs and activities. And we're very intentional with getting adults tied into those students that say they are not connected. At the beginning of the year, we had a little over 120, 130 kids that said they did not have a trusted adult at school, and by the end of the school year, that was down to less than 40. But that's still 40 kids that are walking into our building every day that don't have someone, an adult that they can trust. So those are our steps on student connection.
Mr. Darren, I did talk to a teacher that greets the kids off the bus, and the teacher said
I think I know that.
They get more out of that than the kids maybe.
Yeah,
They thought it was pretty cool. I didn't know that was going on.
Well, we do in the beginning of the school, we only have 4 entrances that are open at the beginning of the school day, and each of those entrances, there is a teacher assigned to meet those students as they get off the bus or come in the front door or come in our athletics area. And it's not only for, part of it is safety, that kids walk in and they see an adult right there, but it's also a welcoming atmosphere. You know, we tell the teachers, make sure you're saying hi to every kid that you can as they come in. A simple good morning to students goes a long way.
So I just noticed,
Yeah.
and forgive me if you addressed this and I missed it, your goals are the same as the middle schools, which I'm assuming is intentional, but can you just give us the rationale for why they are the same?
You know, I don't know if they were intentional at the start, but we have never had aligned goals before. And so this is my 11th year, and Luke at the middle school, I think, is on 5 or 6. And we thought it would work well for both students and staff if we had aligned goals, and our PD calendar aligned as well. We have so many different departments that are truly 712 departments, not just 912 and not just 78. You know, our world language people, our 712, our music people work fantastic together, and so trying to get them aligned with us and us aligned with them so it doesn't seem like it's totally broken up into two different things. Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
I don't know if you know this or not, but one of your graduates just graduated from Marine Corps boot camp last weekend, or this Saturday, Drew Boss.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Always awesome to hear that. So I'll probably just come back next month with something else for you guys.
Thanks, Jim. Sounds good. See you then.
Thanks, Jim.
Student service topics.
Hi. All right, so I just have my director's report. So just a summary of the last time we were together on 9/11. We had a brief update from Jody Jonas on the Judo 2 program. And then also Jim was here with me doing an update on the random drug testing program that we have at the high school. And since then, I believe all of you have seen in the weekly update, the update regarding the weekly or the drug testing. So Tom and I both could answer any questions that you have, but we will be able to move forward with doing that testing using still maintaining that third-party organization using our own healthcare clinic. So that will reduce the cost from about $8,000 to $800. If we look at about 800 tests or so, give or take. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with that option. So that was a great suggestion on Tom's part and awesome for our community in a savings manner. So we're going to do that moving forward, hopefully with our October test.
Cool. Well done.
Yeah.
Go Tom.
Go Tom. We can start chanting. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Finance and facilities.
I'll go quick here. So again, I just reiterate what we talked about at the committee of the whole. I notified you of the emergency purchase we made at the stadium as we had some speakers that were sparking safety hazard. We replaced them and took care of that. And then also I shared the final survey with everyone. So that is available to take a look. That should be hitting mailboxes next week.
Can I tell you that those new speakers, I can hear them at my house now?
We can set an alarm there on those and get you up in the morning if you want, Sherry.
Moving on to action items, policies.
Thank you. We do have a few policies that had a first reading last meeting 2 weeks ago. The first one is the new, replacement policy under suicide prevention, intervention, and postvention. Again, we have the redlined version of the policy in board docs for you to take a look at. And this is the proposed language that administration is making to the board as to how we would handle this topic in our schools.
Do you need individual motions for each policy?
We would, yes.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the new policy 5350 for suicide prevention and intervention.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
The next policy that we have up this evening is 5600.01, disciplinary consequences for student misconduct. This is a new policy. I apologize it didn't end up on last month's agenda, but it is coming back this month for approval. This stems from some meetings with administrators who were looking for a little bit of guidance as to how to treat like offenses across our schools, but then also how to deal with situations where we have kids who are repeatedly refusing to follow directions. So This policy was drafted, brought forward, reviewed by our administration, is now being proposed to the board to be on the list. A question did, before I stop talking, a question did come in as to like, how would we treat a student who has a disability, a student who's got a 504 plan or an IEP? And it's important to note that nothing about having a 504 plan or an IEP precludes you from being disciplined. But what those documents will do is they'll help guide us in those disciplinary decisions. And also, do we need to discipline for something? So for instance, if we had a student who had autism, who had some sensory needs, who was nonverbal, we wouldn't be disciplining that child for disrupting the class. We would be working with that child through the IEP to build strategies to help them in the classroom setting. It would be services that we would provide. Now, that's one example. We might have a student who does not have an IEP, does not have a 504 plan, but we're starting to see repeated refusal. We're starting to see escalations in areas. This policy can help us then come back and say, all right, we've seen this happen with this student 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Is there an area that we now need to investigate for a 504 plan or for an IEP? And we can take those steps then. So the policy does help us in a number of areas.
If I have a question about something that maybe should be on there, do I need to wait for a motion to be made first to talk about it?
Technically, yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, I will make a motion that we approve this policy.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second.
And I have a question. Would it be appropriate for a dress code violation to be in this list of level 1?
It could be. I have not reviewed our dress code policy yet. And oftentimes the dress code policy is explicit in what the expectation is and will outline an array of consequences that could happen. And then that would, if repeated refusal happened around dress code, that then could come into the level 2 or the level 3 of this. So we could list it. There would be no problem doing that.
I don't know if it's necessary. I guess I was asking because in my mind when I read it the first time, I was like, insubordination, if it's a repeat offender, that could probably be under there. But I just thought it was worth mentioning because many things are specifically laid out here.
Yeah.
Dress code, not, and that is, some of us have been in our buildings, and we've seen that this is a surprisingly challenging topic.
Yeah.
So we certainly could add that in as we have R, S, and we could have T on there, student dress violations. That would be an easy thing for us to add, and the board could approve it on an amendment.
I mean, it's up to you guys. Like, I feel like it's fine under insubordination if we know that, but I don't know. What do you guys think? Does it need to be specifically mentioned?
But there's a separate dress code policy, correct?
Well, we have policies about hazing and bullying, too. We have policies about other things as well. This just seems to be outlining the disciplinary consequences more clearly.
You want to add a bullet point.
If it's necessary. I'm not entirely sure that it is. I'm just throwing it out there
I
in case you have thoughts.
I think it's as big a problem as any of these other ones, if not bigger than some of them.
So it is, for us, from an implementation standpoint, if we have it in there, it's explicit. If we don't have it in there, and that might be, I guess, more beneficial for the students to understand that it's in this list. So for us, the implementation of it, we can deal with dress code, whether it's in there or not. But if we feel that it would be a better reminder to students who would violate, then we could add it in there then, and it's in the list.
So you'd like an amendment?
If you would like to add it.
So how would you like me to do that? Just right now in the middle, or I would like to amend this to include the dress code.
I will second your amendment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to amend policy 5600.01 to add dress code violations. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Amendment carries. So we have a policy 5601 with the amendment to add dress code. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Okay. The next policy that's up for approval tonight is just returned our outstanding stale checks. And this is the process that we would follow if we submitted a check and the check did not get cashed, the steps that we would take then.
I make a motion that we move forward with policy 6151, returned outstanding sale checks.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any question or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
The next policy is non-district supported student activity accounts. And this, really the adjustment to this is a replacement policy. And it just talks about who is designated to determine how the money can be collected and distributed. If you notice in the first paragraph, and I remind school boards that I've worked with in the past, if it's a capital S for superintendent, then the superintendent, the position of superintendent, then can delegate that responsibility to another person in the district office. So in most instances, this would be Tom or somebody in Tom's department working through this financial component.
I'll make a motion that we approve 6610, non-district supported student activity accounts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
And then the last policy in front of us this evening is the personal background checks for contracted services. So if we bring plumbers, electricians in to do some work, what guarantee do we have? What is our expectation that their employees are background checked to keep individuals out of schools that do not belong in schools? So this is a new policy up for approval this evening.
I'll make a motion to approve policy 8121, personal background check for contracted services.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Have we been doing this?
Our contractors have been. They've been doing it without our policy. It's good for us to have it on the books, though, should we be heading into a season where we have a lot of contractors on our properties.
So do they have to submit documentation, or is this just how do you police it?
So the policy is pretty specific as to what we need to do and what needs to be provided. That we'll be having necessary procedures to ensure that individuals serving as contractors submit to a background check, and that the entities operating as contractors conduct inquiry into the background information of their employees who are likely to serve on our district. The step that we would take, we would be using initially our Raptor background check for anybody in and out. And so we've already begun to do that step, as we've had our architects, construction management firm in our buildings walking around. Those individuals have gone through the Raptor system. We have assurances from those companies that their employees have gone through their company background check. We take that a step further with the Raptor checks that we run.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor to Pat? You got something?
Oh,
sorry.
just made noise with my mouth, sorry.
All in favor for policy 8121, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries for policy 8121. Moving on to hires, retirements, and resignations.
Evening, everyone.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello.
Hi. So we have one contract that was offered to Maria Schmidt to be a math interventionist at Section Elementary. And then we received a resignation from Erin Romboy from Big Bend Elementary School. She's a special education teacher.
I will make a motion that we approve these.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving on to biomedical innovations.
So I'd like to ask for approval tonight for our biomedical innovations course.
I make a motion to approve this course.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Moving on to unfinished business.
So a couple of things. First, just want to thank the board for the committee work that we did 2 weeks ago to get these topics going forward. We appreciate the questions that come in along the way. If there's a topic that requires some clarification, it helps us be better prepared for each board meeting when you have those, if there's things that we need to clarify. So really appreciate that. The second thing is all school districts in the state of Wisconsin this year have to conduct the pupil non-discrimination self-assessment report. This is a very detailed, time-consuming report that looks at all of our programs, all of our enrollments, and tries to figure out if we are being uniform in our offerings, being uniform in our access to students, and then if there's areas that we need to make improvements, the report then guides us then towards what those improvements need to be. So this is statutory, and due to the recent years of COVID, timelines being shifted, the DPI has said all school districts need to conduct this year. So I'm just putting that on your radar. As more information will come, we'll let you know through kind of how the process is going to go. Christine is going to take the lead. We are going to partner with CISA 6 to assist us in this because this particular report turns into full-time job plus for an individual person. And we want to make sure that when we have to dot the I's and cross the T's, we're doing that for the state with this report. So that is to come. The last thing, and I just want to thank you guys for your kindness and your outreach over the past couple of weeks since my mother-in-law passed. Really appreciated the flowers for Dale coming up on Saturday to the service. So thank you so much. We continue to move forward and heal as a family, but I really appreciate your support. So thank you.
The pupil report, the non-discrimination, is that something that is typically required? Is that a certain, like every 5 years you do this, or is this
Correct.
new for us?
Usually it's every 5 years.
Okay.
So we would have conducted this in the past. I don't know what year because again, it got delayed, postponed, reshuffled during the COVID time. But it is a usual thing. It's usually on a 5-year cycle, and I think they're hitting reset for all of us this school year.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Tom Karthauser. You really go above and beyond your call of duty, working with our youth, keeping our district solid on our finances, always willing to help out anybody, even in our community, like in our village, our taxpayers. You're a great asset to our community. Thank you.
It's my pleasure, Dale. I'll continue to do it all, best I can.
All right, next on the agenda is executive session. Wisconsin Statute 19.85. We'll be discussing teacher base wage to go, Zach? All right. Call this meeting back into open session at 7:27 PM. Jake, sorry about that.
A lot of good stuff there, Jake.
See that?
Do you want to go over the resolution?
Sure.
Do you want to read it, or do you want me to make the motion first?
If you could make the motion.
I will make a motion that we approve the resolution for unilateral implementation of base wage offer.
I will second.
Thank you. So the resolution of the Board of Education of the Mukwonago Area School District dated September 25th, 2023. Whereas representatives of the Mukwonago Area School District, hereafter mentioned as district, and the United Lakewood Educators Mukwonago Chapter, hereafter union, have engaged in negotiations for the 2023-24 collective bargaining agreement between the parties. And whereas the district's last proposal for a base wage increase for the 2023-24 school year was an increase of 4% for union members. And whereas the district had informed the union that, in addition to the district's proposed base wage increase, the district intends to pay all union members a stipend for the 2023-24 school year that would result in all union members receiving a minimum total pay increase of 8% for the 2023-24 school year. And whereas the union has advised the district that the union's members have voted to reject the district's last base wage offer, and whereas with the union's rejection of the district's last base wage offer, the parties are at an impasse in negotiations over the 2023-24 collective bargaining agreement. Therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Mukwonago Area School District, hereinafter Board, that the Board declares that the parties are at an impasse in negotiations over the 2023-24 collective bargaining agreement between the Board and the union, and the Board's last offer for a base wage increase of 4% for all union members be implemented for the 2023-24 school year, adopted by the Mukwonago Area School District Board of Education.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Can,
I'm sorry.
Can the record just show that I recused myself?
Yes.
Abstaining? Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries.
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.